Welcome back. I'm Marcus, and today we're talking about a product update on LeverUp that I think has been under-discussed relative to what it actually means for MON holders on Monad. LVMON staking has moved out of its whitelist phase and is now open to every wallet. No allocation, no quota, no list to join. I've got James from the LeverUp team here to walk through what actually changed and what it means in practice. James, thanks for being on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to get into it.
So let's just set the table for people who might be hearing about LVMON for the first time. What is it, and what does staking it do?
Sure, the short version, LVMON is what you receive when you close a MON-collateral position on LeverUp. You open a position using MON as collateral, you close it, and the protocol settles the close in LVMON rather than giving you raw MON back. So LVMON represents your underlying MON exposure, but inside LeverUp's ecosystem. When you stake that LVMON, you're putting your tokens into the protocol's yield vault. The underlying MON gets deployed across Monad's active liquid staking infrastructure, currently shMON and dMON, which generate yield from Monad network activity. That yield flows back to stakers each epoch.
Okay, so the yield is coming from LSD protocols, not from LeverUp's own trading activity directly.
That's right, the direct yield source is shMON and dMON. They're staking MON into the Monad network and earning POS rewards. LeverUp routes deposited MON into those protocols, and the rewards come back to LVMON stakers. LeverUp does take a commission from those staking rewards, and that commission funds the LV buyback mechanism. But the yield you see as a staker comes from Monad network activity via the LSDs.
And until now, to participate in any of that, you needed to be on a whitelist.
Correct, the initial phase was controlled access. There were a few reasons for that. Primarily, it was about validation, getting vault mechanics and yield distribution working correctly before opening to the full network. When you're building out infrastructure like this, you want to catch edge cases with a smaller known set of participants before you expose it broadly. The controlled phase let us do that.
Fair enough. So what specifically changed? Is this just we opened the gates, or were there actual changes to the contract or the mechanics?
The structural change is that the whitelist requirement is removed. Any wallet holding LVMON can now stake it. There's no allocation quota, no form to fill out, no inclusion criteria. The vault mechanics themselves are the same. How yield accrues, how epoch distributions work, how the participation rate amplifier operates, none of that changed. What changed is who can access it.
Let's talk about the participation rate amplifier because I think that's the part of this announcement that actually deserves more attention. Can you explain how it works?
Yeah, this is worth understanding carefully. The vault earns yield on the total MON it holds, every MON that's been deposited through LVMON settlements, but yield distribution only goes to LVMON that has been actively staked. Those are two different things, the base that generates yield and the pool that receives it.
So there can be a gap between the two.
Right, if 60% of circulating LVMON is staked, then 60% of the supply is sharing the yield that the full 100% of the deposited MON is generating. Active stakers are capturing a proportionally larger share of vault earnings. As more LVMON gets staked over time, the share each individual staker receives normalizes.
So this is a first-mover advantage, not in a manufactured way, but structurally, just from how the math works.
That's the correct framing. It's not a reward program layered on top. It's just how the math works when participation rate is below 100%. And now that staking is open to everyone, that dynamic is playing out across the full circulating supply rather than a controlled set.
Let me push on something here. Opening to everyone means more wallets can stake, which means participation rate goes up, which means the per staker share of yield goes down. Isn't this announcement actually slightly worse for people who were already in the whitelist?
Slight pause, that's accurate in isolation. If you were a whitelist staker, you were benefiting from lower participation rates by definition. Opening access means more competition for the same vault output, and your individual share adjusts accordingly. I don't think that's a reason to frame the open access as a negative. The vault grows more valuable as more MON flows through it, and the network effects of broader participation matter. But you're right that the pure per staker arithmetic is what it is.
I appreciate that. That's an honest answer. Let's talk about how to actually get LVMON if someone doesn't have any yet, because the path isn't obvious. It's not a direct deposit.
Right, it's a two-step process. First, you go to app.leverup.xyz/LVMON and open a MON-collateral position. Then you close that position. When you close it, the protocol settles in LVMON. That's what lands in your wallet. Step 2 is going to the LVMON stake tab on the same page and staking what you received. Once you've done that, you're in the yield pool and accruing your share of vault earnings each epoch.
And you can stake a partial amount, right? You don't have to stake all of your LVMON.
Correct, unstaked LVMON stays as a liquid token representing your MON position. You can stake some and keep some unstaked, or stake all of it, or stake none of it. The staked portion earns yield. The unstaked portion doesn't earn yield from the vault, but remains liquid and usable, including as collateral on LeverUp directly.
That's interesting. LVMON as collateral. So you can be earning staking yield on one hand while also using that same position as margin for a perps trade.
That's the design. LVMON is a supported collateral type on LeverUp, so your MON exposure stays productive across multiple dimensions simultaneously. The same capital earns staking yield from monad network activity through the vault and can also be used as margin for perpetuals positions. It's the same principle that underpins any collateral, the idea that capital shouldn't have to sit idle between uses.
Let me ask about redemption. If I've staked and I want to get my MON back, what does that look like and how long does it take?
The flow is, you burn your LVMON and you receive MON back at the current LVMON to MON exchange rate, which reflects your position value plus any yield that has accrued but hasn't yet been distributed. Because the deposited MON is actively deployed across shMON and dMON, redemptions can go through an unbonding window depending on vault utilization at the time you make the request. It's not always instant. The length of that window depends on what the underlying LSD protocols require at that moment.
So it's not a guaranteed same-day redemption.
It can be depending on utilization, but I wouldn't promise that. The honest answer is, it depends on vault state at redemption time and the unbonding mechanics of the underlying LSD protocols LeverUp is routing through. There's no redemption fee under the current settings, but you may wait.
Okay, that's a real trade-off for people to factor in. Last question before we wrap. For someone holding MON on Monad who has not interacted with LeverUp at all, why does this matter to them specifically?
If you're holding MON, your capital is sitting idle unless you've done something with it. LSD protocols like shMON and dMON are one option. You stake directly and earn POS rewards. LVMON staking routes through those same protocols, but the entry path is through LeverUp's trading infrastructure. So you get monad network yield, and you're in an ecosystem where that same capital can also be used for trading without having to exit your position. The participation rate dynamic means that earlier participation captures a proportionally larger share of vault output. Whether that's compelling for a given wallet depends on their situation, but the yield is real and comes from real network activity.
Not a promise of yield. Real yield from real monad network activity.
Exactly, it's not a points program or an incentive layer. The MON deposited into the vault earns POS rewards from shMON and dMON. Those rewards are what get distributed to stakers. The source is transparent and on-chain.
James, this has been a good conversation, genuinely useful. For anyone listening who wants to get started, the link is app.leverup.xyz/LVMON. We'll have it in the show notes. Thanks for being on.
Thanks for the sharp questions. Appreciate it.
That's a wrap. I'm Marcus. See you in the next one.